my sub.
All right, should I share?
Okay, Mario, let's go.
Okay, let me bring this up. All right, so I iconized a bunch of the stuff I wanted to talk about. So let me just show you a couple of comparisons first. Then I'm going to go through a galaxy, I think it's the March object, and I saved images, because if I go through the whole process, it will take over an hour. But I saved images along the way so you can see why it's good. So first, some comparisons. So this is the same data. I had to go, I didn't, I saved at the end before I reversed the image to correct the way it's in the sky. So here is 891. This is the exact same data, went back and reprocessed it on the right. See it?
Mhm.
I
Not
mean,
just detail, you got rid of that bluish tint also.
I mean, it's here. If you compare spec per spec, you can see that, you know, this blurry line just becomes a normal line over here.
Yeah,
What's more, I think the color is improved because it's not smeared out. So this, let me just move this up here. This arm has a lot of blue stars in it, which you'd expect in a thin disk.
right.
Those are the new stars. Yet it's not obvious in this one over here because the blue is smeared out. Others have commented on that as well. So it not only makes things sharper, it's improving your color because the color is concentrated to where it should be instead of blurred out.
Mhm.
Okay, so let me close that. 660. All right, so I've reprocessed this from the original. Again, when I save, I usually flip the image later on. But here is it's not
So this
as
one's a little
dramatic
bit
in
more
this one.
subtle. Right.
Huh?
This one's a little bit more subtle.
Yeah, but there's more detail
Mhm.
in this one, and the color is better. So let me close that.
Wow.
Yeah. The stars in particular look so much better.
Yeah, as Phil said, the stars kind of just, they don't disappear, they just become very sharp and distinct. But the detail, you know, in here compared
Amazing.
to that
That's amazing.
is just pretty amazing.
Yeah.
It's taken what I thought was I used to like this picture. In fact, I have it hanging up in my house because I just think it's a great picture.
Yeah.
But now this is just so much better, don't you think?
Yeah. The stars frame the object in your new version where they're competing in the first.
Correct. But the sharpness is what, I mean, it's like taking your scope and putting it out in space.
Yeah.
Depth, that's the best way. It's like the way animation cartoons went from, you know, the early Disney to nowadays, everything's looks 3D.
Right.
Yeah.
So again, what I'm showing you is pictures of the exact same data. So it's
Mhm.
not like I took them in different nights. It's the same data. So on the left is the flame, right? It's okay. It's a nice picture. Look on the right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
This one's poster quality, Mario.
it's beyond belief.
Yeah, the colors are so satisfying and they look much more natural, and the detail is pinpoint.
Right. I mean, just the fineness of the detail in this gas. And I looked up, you know, I mean, I'm saying, is it artifact or is it real? I looked at a couple of professional large observatory photos of this. Every one of these lines is real. It was blurred out before, that's all.
Yep.
And it's just a matter of the fact that the data is there. It's
Yeah,
just how the data is being processed. And
correct.
especially, we're all into getting a lot of images, which, it just, adds that much greater detail. So
All right, so
not
now
at
this,
600 like Phil, but I try to get at least, many times 100 to 150.
now Phil said that
Mhm.
clusters may not be improved by much. I disagree. So here is NGC 1245, which is January's object of the month.
Yep.
So here is before, and here is, I mean, it's not as dramatic as a nebula, but if you compare star to star, I just think it's sharper. The colors are better. Look, the blue in that star, it's a blue star. I looked it up. Compared to this star, it's slightly green. The colors are better. I think they're real because they're not spread out. Even the diffraction spike is nice and sharp.
Yeah.
See that? And here's something I didn't notice before. Look over here. You don't see anything, right? Now, same area. There's a little galaxy there.
How did you do that? How did you bring out more stars?
Just the fact that it's concentrating the light. This line of stars here along here. You can see some faint stuff there, but it's smeared
Yeah.
out so it doesn't appear to you. Here they become real stars.
Yeah,
And
this
there's,
looks,
actually, I'm
up in the
seeing two
corner.
galaxies. There's a galaxy here and there's a galaxy here.
in
And you
specific,
cannot see
Mario,
them.
what I said was it's globular clusters that I found it didn't really help, but open clusters I haven't tried yet. This is proof positive that it enhances the open cluster.
Yeah, absolutely.
I-
And
I gotta
I'm
get- I
gonna
haven't
I'm gonna
processed-
prove you wrong. Next globular cluster, I bet you I can improve it.
Good.
All right, so now, so that's just to compare to show you that it's worthwhile going through the process. I sent out some my process on a Word file. I don't know if you got that, Barry.
Yes, I have it here.
Okay, so that's how I process pretty much all my pictures now. And there is a new, if I move that down, I don't know if I can show you. There's a new product. Let me just open it up. Hold on. If I'm going to stop share and share my.
So you have here GraxPert. Is that another thing that you downloaded?
Say that again?
It says GraxPert.
Yes, that's what I was going to show you.
Oh, okay.
Except I don't see
Is that
my.
available or I have to purchase that also?
It's free.
Okay.
Let me share that screen. Can you see my, what do you see on me right now?
We see your
Star
observatory
tracks
and
over your
polar
observatory.
tracks.
Okay, so I'm going to open up Graxpert Win 64 just to show you what it looks like, and then I'm just going to show you frames from it.
Oh, okay. So this is not part of Pix?
No, well, it's not in Pix, but what I found out is it saves in the EXIF file, so you can stack any way you want.
Yeah.
And then go through this instead of DBE, and then everything else is in Pix. I don't know
Okay.
why they didn't just put
Okay.
it in Pix. It takes a little longer to. Usually takes
So
a
if I
few-
want, until I'm still not stacking in Pix, I'll eventually get around to. I'm still stacking in Deep Sky Stacker. So if I do Deep Sky Stacker, I end up with a FITS file. I can put that through this GraxPert.
Yeah. So this, can you see my
Yeah,
my Graxpert? Okay, it supports TIFF, FITS, PNG, JPEG, and it exports in all these.
Mhm.
So it exports in XF, so you just put them right into PixInsight.
yep, I see 16-bit and 32-bit, which is good.
Yeah, well, save it in 32-bit,
Of course.
Right.
Yeah.
right?
And then you can continue on in Pix. with them.
Correct.
Okay.
So the beauty of this is compared to DBI is it's all sliders, and you create a grid. Maybe I should just open one just to show you. Let me load an image. Let me pick anyone here. Scaled. All right, I'll take the blue of this. I just find this remarkable. I spent yesterday. Okay, so here's a galaxy, and when you it's funny, it saved the boxes, but all I did was create grid.
And the grid
Okay.
is the boxes.
Yeah, so I'm gonna reset it. So you can change it by the grid tolerance and by the points per row. And then it calculates the background, but let's create the grid. And it does it almost automatically. Occasionally you get one you have to move. They do tell you don't put it on the object.
Mhm.
But the background extraction, I'll show you with some saved photos, is better than DBE. And I processed them all the way through. And by starting off, as Phil, you just said, you start off with better data at the beginning, you end up with better pictures later.
Absolutely.
If you have a better background extraction, everything is just easier later on. I was able to get the pictures pretty similar, but it was a lot harder starting from DBE than it was from Grax. Okay, so you can
when you're
get
moving the
there.
boxes, it's just like moving the X's in DBE, right?
Yeah, now,
Yeah.
you know, and then you come up here and it shows you original or process. Oh, you gotta calculate background. Okay, so it's gonna calculate the background. And by the way, others have noticed that the donut holes are better with this. Now, I purposely, they say in the instructions to go to the maximum saturation, not, wait a minute, what am I saying here? Not saturation, the 2 sigma. Okay, so that makes it look awful because it's really bringing out all the noise. You know, if you do here, it won't look as bad.
So which one do you go with? The 10?
See, now it doesn't look bad, right?
Okay, yeah.
But they say, if you know, look at the worst possible example and let it calculate with that, because that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to get rid of all the bad noise. So this is all the bad noise truly enhanced. And then you calculate the background, and it is the background that it's going to remove. Okay. And you can compare with the original and the processed, so you see what's going on. I just find that now, let me give you some real world examples that I saved. Okay, so you can see how easy it is, and there isn't a lot to do, just a couple of sliders, and then save it in whichever format you want.
Mhm.
Okay, I'm saving it in 32-bit XISF, so I go right into pics. So I'm going to close that. Okay, now let me, do you see my pic screen now? Or do I have to unshare and share? Okay,
Yep.
good. All right, so let's, let me move you guys over to this side. Okay, so I've made some direct comparisons. So here is the red version of that galaxy, right? Before DBE, that's just stacking, okay? So here's with DBE. And notice that sometimes I get this rim around the edges that introduces a little bit of color later on. Do you see what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Red. Let me put them side by side. I think one thing others have noticed is in the DBE, it makes the center sometimes a little dark. It doesn't happen with Grax. And that ends up being a major improvement later on when you're processing. And the contrast between the center and the edge is much less here. Right? By the
Mario,
way,
what are the donut artifacts?
oh, those, I didn't take a good flat that night. I don't know if I was in a hurry, but it wasn't over the galaxy, so I didn't care.
Okay.
Okay, that's dust on your imager, either on the, probably on one of the filters, actually. I know I gotta clean my,
on the one on the left, is that after running? Grax?
yeah, this is after BlurX too. But this is Graxpert. No, it's not after, I'm sorry. This is just the Graxpert versus DBE. Okay, now, so let me minimize that. And the loom is probably even a better example, but I thought the red loom. So loom DBE on the right and Grax on the left. I think you can start to see an improvement already. You know, compared, this is a flatter frame, in my opinion, than this. It's a little darker around the galaxy, and there's a little bit of a rim with DBE. And I took some time. Now, with DBE, as you know, you got to spend time putting the boxes on, and you may have to move them, and then you
Right.
have to change the tolerance, and you have to change, you know, it's a lot of fine tuning to get it just right for the galaxy. With the Grax, it just saves me time. I just make a couple of sliders and it's done, and it's a little bit better.
Mhm.
So even if it was, this is not a major improvement like BlurX. Okay, that is earth shattering. This is not earth shattering, but it saves me time. And anything that saves me time, I'm going with. Okay, and it's free, so there's not a lot of thinking on this.
Very nice.
Yeah, I'll give it a try. I mean,
Okay.
we've gone from gradient exterminator in Photoshop to DBE, and we'll take a look, and I'll try it on
Okay.
some stuff that,
So now, what did I have here next? Okay, so BlurX. So let me go with the loom. Let's try that one. That's loom with BlurX, and is that with the Grax? Okay, hold on. I'm losing my train of thought here. Loom DBE BlurX. Okay, so the one on the left, which I'm pretty sure is the Grax with, no, this is DBE BlurX noise. This one is Loom DBE BlurX noise. Why is it different? I'm getting confused. Hold on, let me close this one. Where's my Grax? Loom, Grax, BlurX noise. Okay, here we go. All right, now you're getting a direct comparison. So these are now both Grax. This one's Graxpert, BlurX, and then noise with noise RC. And the one on the left is the same thing, except it was DBE. Notice the background is not quite flat
Yeah.
compared to this. So the BlurX worked fine on both of them. The noise works better on the one on the right because there's less of it to begin with, because you're starting off with a flatter background.
Mario,
Oh.
you've got there, so it's noise X, is that a yet another new function?
Noise, it's this one here, RC noise.
RC noise?
Yeah. RC Astro Noise Exterminator from Russell Croman.
Okay, So RC.
His
Your-
Star Exterminator, I didn't buy it. It's not needed. StarNet 2 is fine. I think this one is 60. But if you already bought something from him, it's you get a discount.
Okay.
All right.
That,
So, but can
It's,
but
it's
can you
more,
see the
is it
difference
as,
between the two?
yeah, is it as much of an improvement to noise reduction as compared to TVG?
I think it's better
GB.
noise reduction, much
Yeah.
better.
But BlurX should be my first investment.
BlurX is earth shattering. Noise X is a nice convenience.
Okay,
Okay, there is no way I'm ever going to process without BlurX, but Noise X I can get around with other processes.
Okay.
All right, so do I convince you that this is starting off better than this?
Sure.
That's why I like Gradient Exterminator. I'm the I'm sorry, what's it called? Graxpert.
Expert, yeah.
Yeah. Now, let me bring up.
what's the BlurX palette look like? In other words, the function.
Say that again.
What does BlurX actually look like when, as far as the sliders?
I can bring it up in a moment.
It's
Yeah,
only got
good.
2 sliders, Barry. It's really
Really?
simple.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's really easy. So
And the
here
defaults,
is,
defaults are great right out of the box, so.
Okay.
now this is before histogram, but this is, oh no, maybe, well, this is after. I combined red, green, blue, okay? And this was with BlurX and noise, but it is the DBE. Now, where is my color one? Here we go. The one on the left is with DBE. Remember, there was some residual haze, right? And look at the edge where that rim is, a little bit of color. Now look at Graxpert, and then the BlurX and the noise. It's a better background because you don't have that haze. So you're starting off with a better image before you start doing all your processing.
Mhm.
Now, I can get rid of it, and I did, but it's just more work. Okay, the way to get rid of this haze is you make a mask, okay, and mask the galaxy after you take out the stars. Take out the stars, mask the galaxy, and then you can dim the background and get rid of it. But with this one, I don't have to do much of that. It just starts off better. And I found out the colors come out better later on because it starts off better color balanced for some reason. I don't understand why, but it did.
I guess the only thing that I'm going to say is when I'm processing my images, and maybe it's because of my optics, my camera, I don't get all that peripheral extra stuff.
Well, a lot of it's the light pollution and stuff. Now with narrow bands, you don't see that, of
Mhm.
course.
Yeah.
So if you use a narrow band, you don't get a lot of the gradients because they're automatically eliminated by the narrow band filter.
Well, on
But if you-
Galaxies, I'm not using narrow.
Yeah. Well, I occasionally get it. And then this galaxy, I
Okay.
mean, there are galaxies that are low in the sky, you're going to get a lot of
Mhm.
gradient. There are
Yeah.
galaxies straight up that you get minimal. I'm just trying to show you that, again, this is not earth shattering, but I think from my experimentation, I think Graxpert's just a little bit better than DBE. Either one is fine, but the Graxpert's a little better. But the main thing for me is it's easier and faster. Okay. And when you're going to spend a couple of hours processing, to shave 30 minutes off that, I'm going for it. And especially
One
when it's
question
free.
is, being that my camera is just a one-shot color,
Yeah.
will will the impact on me be any different?
I don't know. All I can tell you is on cloudy nights, they're singing its praises. But I haven't experimented with a one-shot color image yet, so I can't
Okay.
tell you but they think comments from others, and I hate to use other, but I read about it before I downloaded it and tried it myself. They claim that The donut's a little less intense. The field is flatter, and you're starting off with a smoother color. That's what they say. So, and I don't recall them mentioning one-shot color, but a lot of those guys do use one-shot color.
Okay,
All right. So now, let me show you the next things I do then are pretty much the standard processing. So just to, after I histogram it into a stretched image, one of the first things I do is get rid of the stars. I use StarNet too. Okay, I don't know if you're familiar with that, but that's also a free program. Okay, the regular Pix uses StarNet, but StarNet 2 is significantly better. Okay, it really gets rid of the stars, and you can save them. I always create the star mask, and I use that as my star field, which I then will add back. So I eliminated from the loom, I eliminated from the color picture. The loom one I almost always just get rid of, and the color one I keep, and that's the one I process. I stretch the color of the stars with curves, and I might use morph a little bit, but now with BlurX, it's rare you even have to do that anymore. Again,
Right.
all these things save steps later on, but StarNet, get rid of the stars and then work on the object. Now, the object in this case was the galaxy. So because the field was flatter, because I processed it both ways, I'm going to read off here. I didn't save every image. I really didn't have to do anything with the RadX one. The one with the DBE, I made a mask. Okay, so range mask. Okay, and put it over the galaxy, and then went histogram and just lowered the background a bit because there's nothing there left. I already pulled them out with the StarNet 2. And that's how I fixed it. So it came out basically similar. I mean, there are minor differences at the end, but not much. Okay, so you can fix it. So it's, again, it's not earth-shattering this time, but it saves me time. It's less steps because it starts off with a flatter field to begin with. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I think so.
I'm processing. Okay, so then I go, once I got the background good with the galaxy, then I do HDR, then exponential transform.
Yep.
And just a touch of unshot mask. I play with it just to make it look correct. But I don't have to play with it now with BlurX. I don't have to play with that much at all. In fact, I found if I use too much unsharp mask, it starts to look artificial, whereas before it needed
That's
it.
right. Yeah.
Okay, so now I just maybe halfway the slider instead of way over to the right, and it just sharpens it enough without introducing noise. Now, occasionally the center of the galaxy, it's hard to get the colors right. So the ones with DBE, I sometimes use game and cover the center of the galaxy, push the color in the edge, reverse it and push the color in the center separately so it comes out right. With the Graxpert to begin with, I really didn't have to do that. Again, it just saved me time on these individual processing steps. If you start off with a better set of data to begin with before you do the histogram transfer, it just makes your life much easier down the road. Okay, so that was the second thing I noticed. I basically didn't have to do much of that. But in case you still get it, occasionally you're going to get bad data. One of the ways you can get around it is use game and play with it to get it right. Then the next step is I fix the stars. I boost the color and I decrease size if needed. Now with BlurX, I don't think it's going to be needed much at all. But if the stars are, as Phil said, too much in the way, they're in a really starry field, I could see myself diminishing them a bit. But time will tell with BlurX. Then I use pixel math, and I put the stars back on top of the galaxy, whatever object I'm looking at. and then save all that. And then I go to Photoshop and I might do, I
Mhm.
change the size, I reverse the image. I know you can do that in Pix. I don't know. I'm just used to doing it in Photoshop, but just minor stuff like that and minor hue correction. But I don't use Photoshop much at all anymore. And basically that's what I do. So I think the major advances is get StarNet. It's free.
Mhm.
Uh,
StarNet 2, you said, correct?
StarNet 2, yeah. StarNet comes with Pix in the latest release. StarNet 2 does not, but you
Right.
can download it and they'll show you how to put it into
Mhm.
Pix Insight. I would definitely get RC noise. It's better than the other way I used to get rid of noise is this multi-scale linear transform.
Mhm.
I found it tends to blur the images slightly, whereas RC noise does not.
Bring that back up,
noise.
Mario, bring that back up for a moment. Linear noise.
Yeah.
See, the key I have found is linear mask, because otherwise it will dig into the object and blur the edges.
Maybe
But
that's
if
my
you use
mistake
a
then.
linear mask, and you can go over to the right to see what you have underneath linear mask. Go over, take your pointer all the way over to the right and click on the little arrow button there. Yeah, do that. Okay, so you can preview your mask, and you can, by the way, you can go online and there's a YouTube video that shows you how to use this thing perfectly.
Okay.
The key is you just have to make sure that you set the mask so that you are really blocking out 95%, let's say, of your object, and then you get a very smooth transition at the edge.
All right, good to know. But why is all this grayed out now?
Why is what? Oh, that's because they're separate. You first build your mask.
Oh, I
After
see.
you
Okay.
build your mask and apply it, then everything will come back
So you
up.
got to put the mask on top of the image,
Yeah,
and then you run
yeah.
it without clicking that,
Right.
correct?
As I don't take anything that I say here as gospel, because I'm not quite as up on it as I was a month ago. But if you go to YouTube and you just simply enter in Pix and then multi-scale linear transform,
Yeah.
there's a great video to explain the whole process.
Okay.
That's the
But you know,
key.
you're just proving my point. There's a lot of steps here,
Yeah,
and it
this
works
is an
pretty
extra
well.
step.
Works pretty well. But compare that to RC Astro Noise Exterminator. All I have to worry about is one slider.
Yep.
Okay, and I found this area here works best. But if it makes it look slightly artificial, I go here. One place where I definitely use multi-scale linear is on the sun. I found Noise X does not work well on the solar images.
Mhm.
It creates artifacts. It's suspecting stars.
Yeah.
But the multi-scale linear transform gets rid of the noise, but keeps the solar features nicely. So there is a place for it.
Yeah. Open up BlurX just for Barry's edification so we can see how simple the
Yeah, just, and
tool
if
is.
you can open up a file and just show me the impact of it.
So you go on the deconvolution, BlurX Exterminator. All right. And you just leave it on automatic PSF because it calculates it from the stars in your field. And you can decide how much to sharpen the image you're taking, the non-stellar image. But it's best to just kind of leave it in the middle. If you want to do more or less, you can play with it. It takes longer than most processes. It takes sometimes 45 to 60 seconds, and I got a fairly good computer. So it's intensive, but it works pretty well. Then you can decide how much to sharpen or unsharp. And one thing I found, let's say you have a bad night and it's been really windy and the stars came out oblong. It works better if you do correct only first. It seems to correct the stars in different regions. Unlike deconvolution, where is it here? Unlike deconvolution, which takes the whole field all at once, Okay, so if you have one part of the field that's a little worse than the other, this just will treat them all the same on blurring. The whole field will be corrected that amount. But RX, what makes this unbelievable is it takes it breaks it up into segments of the sky, and it depends on the photo how many segments, and each one is treated as a deconvolution. So if you have a field curvature where your edges are more oblong stars in the center, by fixing the edges, you don't ruin the center. Okay, that's the beauty of BlurX Terminator. It really does all that perfectly
So
well.
the BlurX, you think as a novice going into this, I just should start off with the nominals, in other words, the defaults, correct? And then play it on both sides.
Start with the defaults, but I'm
Yeah.
just saying if you have a really bad night where the stars look awful and you don't want to throw away your data, I've come across those nights. Because I went back and I wanted worst case scenarios, so I tested on some of my older images, and I found if you do correct only first, it corrects the stars, then run it like you normally would have now with the stars starting off better, and it does a fabulous job even with lousy data.
Yeah, let me explain something to Barry here.
Yeah.
The stellar adjustments at the top affects, as the name would imply, just the stars. So the slider at the top that says sharpen stars, the more you pull that slider to the, I think it's to the right, the more pinpoint your stars are going to become. And, you know, as Mario pointed out, they don't necessarily disappear, but they sure seem to until you look very closely.
Yeah.
The non-stellar adjustments is how you sharpen the detail in the galaxy or the nebula.
Yeah.
So you literally have this versatility of tackling the stars separate from the object. And that is one of the reasons why this tool is so wonderful in its final result. And as you can see, it's very simple. It's just pulling sliders.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's from the neural network. I mean, it's a pretty large file, 120 megabytes.
Yeah.
But anyways, I just, this is a must. Okay, there's no way I'm ever going to process again without BlurX Terminator. Everything else I said you can get around and you can fix, but it'll just take you twice as long to process to come to the final result.
I probably have a ton of data that I'll have fun with.
I don't like wasting my time, and sometimes after an all-night session of imaging, facing a couple of hours of processing for an image is tedious. 1 hour is doable, and if it comes out with the same level, you know, or better, what the heck? I'd rather save the time and not be so fatigued after. But that's BlurX Exterminator. I consider that. This one is earth-shattering. Everyone should get it. The others are there are many fixes you can do, but they're time savers. So to me, there's a difference between a time saver and something that's unlivable without.
Well, I can tell you that I have, I'm looking forward to it because I have an M31 also from 2020 and also early 2022 that was maybe not as good as yours, but because it just was two perfect nights. I'm curious to see what I can come up with, because for me, I got so much nebulosity out of it. The nebulas were just so distinct that I'll be curious to, and the colors came out good. So I'll be curious to see if I can get that depth out of it.
Yeah,
so
well,
this is one of the first ones I tried.
Yeah, not that one. This here shows you why I have my theory as to why because I didn't do anything to bring out this color, nothing whatsoever, compared to that other picture you saw that didn't show it well. I mean, it was a slight blue tinge. I think it's because by deconvoluting properly, it concentrating the color, so it now shows up.
Less diffraction.
Yeah, basically, it's like taking your scope and putting it up into space. And all this is real. I actually went and looked at a picture from Mauna Kea
Mhm.
at 891, and every one of these lines is real. It's not artifact.
Mhm.
That's what blew me away. Because I
Right.
looked at this in my old one, it says, where'd that blue come from? And these lines must be artifact, it's like an over sharpened picture. So I brought up one of the 8.2
Yeah.
meter scopes on Mauna Kea. I forget which one I
Sure.
brought up.
Well, there's another
Damn, it
galaxy.
was exactly the same. I
Yeah.
could superimpose them
Yeah.
and say, this is all real.
Well, I think a galaxy that I would try it on is the sculpture galaxy, because that's always has had a great amount of detail.
Yeah, then
Even
that's low in
and
the sky. That
and
would
it's
be a
like the
good one
sky.
to
Yeah,
use
that
So
one should
BlurX.
benefit.
Yeah, I'm gonna go back and some of my really good photos that I'm gonna maybe reprocess them, and maybe before I enter the nursing home, I'll finish, but we'll see.
but what I'll do is, I know there's a lot of different techniques you've described here. I think before I jump into any of them, I'm going to try the BlurX. Just say, okay, let's run that. I'll keep going with my DBE for now, because I think my background gradients weren't as pronounced as what you have. DBEs has been working pretty good. Eventually, I'll try that graph. Um, so I'll probably give you guys a shout sometime in early February once I get it up and running. Unfortunately, I've been really, really tied up lately. I don't know if I mentioned to you, I'm involved with another startup company, a really
Yeah.
good startup. I'm back in doing neurostimulation for patients who suffer from symptoms associated with gastroparesis. And when you do a startup, you get to be quite busy. So
I
I'll,
forgot to show you this one. This is the March object.
so is that
And
M81?
no, this is 2841.
Oh, okay. Looks like
But
Bodhi's Galaxy a little bit.
look at the color difference.
Oh,
Okay,
yeah. Unbelievable.
and again, the detail here isn't bad,
Mhm.
but to get to this one, okay, I had to work 10 times harder. I had
Uh-huh.
to get rid of the background. I didn't have to do that here. I had to push the color in the stars. Here, they
Yeah.
almost came out naturally.
Yeah.
Here, I had to use game to enhance the center and the edge, and it still didn't
Yeah.
come out like this.
Yeah.
Magnificent.
And you
This-
got that, yeah, a little bit more of that yellowish tinge rather than the
Yeah.
pinkish. And
And-
that drives me crazy with galaxies like M81.
This one was the one on the right was effortless. The
Yeah.
one on the left, I had to work at it.
Mhm.
They're both pretty good. If I didn't know about Gradac, I keep mispronouncing it,
BlurX.
Graxpert,
Oh, Braxford.
German
Yeah.
person.
Mhm.
Anyways, I didn't know about Graxpert and I didn't know about BlurX. I would have said, boy, this is a great photo. I'm perfectly happy with it. But now that I see this, I'm going to process that way from now on.
Right. Yeah. I'll start off with the BlurX and then switch it and then try that Graxport also.
Well, the Graxpert's free, so you don't lose
Right.
anything for downloading
Right.
it.
Yeah. Well, I can try that before I go away. And
By the way, this is how you go to updates, manage repositories,
Mhm.
and you'll be told to add here, and he'll give you something where you get it, and you just add it and put it inside there, and then say okay, and it'll download the program and put it into PixInsight.
And that's for Graxpert or BlurX.
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 But as you said,
Graxpert is outside of Pix.
okay. Okay. Right.
Great.
Okay. No, you're right.
Okay.
Too many X's.
Thank you, Mario.
Thank you, Mario. Thank you, Phil.
Yep.
Pretty astonishing results there, Mario.
Yeah, I'm there was almost so many new things. In a way, I'm almost annoyed because basically anyone can make fantastic pictures these days that spent 30 years trying to perfect. But it is
It'll make
amazing.
your pictures even that much better, though.
The optics are better, the programs are better. It's newbies are making fantastic photos these days.
Mhm.
whereas it would be 10 years of film and hypering film, and losing half your frames and staying up all night in the old days. So
Mhm. Yep.
a lot of suffering to get to this point, but now it's pretty damn easy.
Well, I think, that's kind of like when I got into it, going back now, I guess you could say almost 11 years. So I've been doing it for 10, and I've seen the evolution and, but when I got into it back in 2012, that was when I was able to make the jump because I saw the opportunity, especially with my limitations of where I live. So
Yeah.
that's what I have to constantly work around.
Well, if I lived in Marblehead, I'd just do a lot of narrowband pictures.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's how I get around that. I mean,
Right.
the beauty of narrowband is you can take it from pretty much anywhere. You just don't get the good galaxies because those you need broadband.
Right, right. And I like doing the galaxies lately, especially with wide field to get wide field galaxy. You're not getting the details of getting like M81 and some of the others, but April, May is a fun time of year with the Virgo. So
Yeah.
so hopefully I can find some more time this year. This past year I've been swamped with work. So okay,
All right.
have a good evening, and let's I'll hope maybe I'll be able to report well, maybe not for the February but I might be able to give a report on the crack report. I'll download that later this week. So
Okay.
Okay.
thanks a lot, guys.
All right.
All right.
Thanks,
Enjoy your
Mario.
move, Mike.
See you guys. I'll send everybody a link to the video if anybody wants to refer
Yes,
to it.
yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
So, Mike, where is your new place in Rockport?
Rockport, the Rockport High School apartments. Right next to the library,
Library. Okay.
right at the end
All
of
right.
the block there.
You're
Hope that
living in
works out.
Rockport now, Mike?
Certainly, it be a lot closer to Lanesville.
Yeah, I like East Gloucester, but I can't stand the fish stick smell day in and day out.
Okay.
So I won't be sorry to see that go.
Yeah, we've been in our house now coming up on 24 years. Okay,
All
cool.
right, folks.
Okay.
See
Okay,
some of
bye.
you maybe on Friday for our planning meeting. If not, on our February meeting, we've got Christine Larson, who's been talking around the country to people, and she's going to do something on women in astronomy. We haven't nailed it down yet, but it should be pretty interesting. I hear she's very good.
We'll look forward to it.
What's up with that?
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay,
All
bye.
right. Bye-bye, folks.
Bye, everybody.